everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I'm very excited to tell you that I will be talking to Chris McCausland, who is also blind and is an incredibly talented TV personality and comedian. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Hiya, Chris.
Hey, Evie, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good. Excited for this. This is good. I had a little listen to your the link I was sent. So you're a natural.
Thank you.
So don't be grilling me with anything too hard, yeah?
Don't worry. So, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. I just been writing all day, so stuck on my computer. So this is a nice little break from typing away.
Oh, right. Well, that's good then. So I was born blind, but I believe that you lost your sight over a number of years. So could you tell us a bit about your condition and how you lost your sight?
Yeah, for those that know the lingo, the terminology, I've got RP, retinitis pigmentosa, because as you know, none of these things have got an easy name. And when people ask me, it's one of them questions you get asked all the time. My answer is always yeah, but no. Have you always been blind? Yeah, but no, because I was born with it, because it's genetic. But then it deteriorated. So I've always had it. It's always been part of me life. But I did used to be able to see, and it deteriorated very, very, very gradually over about 20 years. It's one of those things that when people ask, when did you lose your sight? When did you go blind? It's hard to say because you stop being able to do different things at different times. So there's never a time when you go, oh, it was the 5th of July, 19, whatever. It's just one of them things where, well, I stopped being able to see the computer screen then and see in the dark then. And, so I always say when I was about 20.
Right, okay. So I often find that because I'm blind, people get quite awkward around me. I think because they're scared that they'll say or do the wrong thing. But I think that humour is a great way to break down barriers. But have you ever had a case where someone just hasn't followed your humour?
Well, I think just thinking of humor as a whole and my life as a whole, I'm afraid I would have to say that my humor was never appreciated in school. I think I was, in school, I was maybe the class clown, but it was always my undoing, my downfall in school. In my school reports, if you look back over some of my school reports, they'll say he thinks he's the class clown. No good will ever come of this. Well, I'd love to get those teachers back. But I know what you mean. People do get awkward, don't they? And it's sometimes that you do try and break the ice with people and put them at ease, but they don't. They're so kind of nervous around you and worried whether they're doing the right thing or whether they're helping, whether they're hindering. That you can try and make a joke sometimes, and it just makes the situation more awkward, really, because they.
Yeah, I know you have to be really careful because I do get why people get quite awkward because, obviously I know some people haven't had many interactions with blind people before, so when they see one of us, it's kind of like a panic type thing. And yeah, sometimes you can make jokes and it just really doesn't work, and then you're sort of stood there going, okay, well that just made it worse. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, I think, is that, sometimes we do need help, and sometimes we don't. But also, people who, offer help sometimes, they have this kind of this desire to offer assistance, but also this idea that we are capable of nothing. And
Yeah.
so they're often surprised when you're able to do steps or things like that, the number of times somebody's tried to help me downstairs or down steps, and they go so slowly that they make the whole experience far more awkward than you're kind of tripping over the backs of their heels. They're going so slowly. There's more chance of you toppling off them at the speed they're going. You're like, come, pushing them on those. Come on, hurry up.
Yeah, I know. I've had so many cases where people just think I can't do things, but then I've also had cases where when I am able to do stuff, people make like such a big deal out of it, and then that's just really awkward for me as well.
Yeah. I mean, only recently, like I've kind of legged it out of the building here and into a taxi, and the driver's being like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting somebody like you." I was like, "Well, well, somebody who could just come down the stairs on their own and find the car." He's like, how did you know where the car was? Well, the engine's running.
Yeah.
But what about yourself? What's your own experiences of using humor? It sounds like you've got a story.
Well, I suppose not really a story. I have had cases where like I've made, I guess they could be dark jokes to my friends, and
Yeah.
I get the vibe they've just sort of given me a look.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the older you get, and then when alcohol is introduced into your social environment and you're out with your friends, you'll find that your friends will your friends will become the ones that start making the jokes that other people around that aren't within your group will be shocked because they my group of friends will be the first to absolutely decimate me on anything to do with my blindness or my ineptitude of things. Your closest friends become so comfortable around you that it's other people then that are like, you can't say that. And yeah, we can. It's just Chris.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do have friends like that, but it's usually when I make new friends, I'm sort of like testing the water, and I just get a look. I'm like, okay, I'll be quiet then.
I'll tell you this, actually. I had in talking about people who are trying to help, but just really, I suppose, ignorant towards real life. Really, I had a guide dog years ago, and I was out in the town with my wife and my kid and the dog, and I was stood there with the guide dog, and a fella came over, and he was obviously trying to be nice, and he gave me £2, and he told me to put it in my jar. I was like, what do you mean, put it in my jar? Put that in your jar. Like I was just stood there collecting for guide dogs or something like that. And I gave him his £2 back, and they said, "No, it's okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your generosity, but that's you keep your £2." And then I swear later on, my daughter wanted a balloon outside the shopping centre, and there were £2, and I didn't have it, and I was kicking myself.
Oh, that's really annoying.
Should have taken the money.
Yeah, maybe you should have. So I've often found that because I'm blind, you can get asked some quite random questions. And I remember I once got asked 3 questions, one after another, and I called them the triple threat because of that. And the questions that I were asked, they're my favourite questions I've ever been asked because of how shocking they are. And they are, how do you wake up? Does your mum love you? And are you alive?
And you got asked all of these by one person?
I got asked all of these by one person, and I nicknamed them the triple threat because they must all have been in the span of about 2 minutes.
Wow, by one person. And I think the answers to those questions to that one person is I feel like I might be dreaming now. I think my mum loves me more than yours loves you. And am I alive? Well, yeah, keep this up, and I might wish the other way.
I was only about 10 at the time, so I was quite little, and I was just sort of questioning everything.
Yeah, I mean that's shocking, isn't it? I mean, I was asked once, when you're eating, how do you know where your mouth is?
Oh,
it's under my nose. It's always in the same place. Yeah, when you're eating, how do you find your mouth? People have asked me, and it's, like when you're talking to somebody and you're kind of, making rough eye contact with them, and you don't come across as blind to that person that you're talking to. And they say, wow, I mean, like, how do you even know where I am when you're talking to me? And it's like, well, because you're making a noise, like you're talking, you're actually, it's not, I'm just looking where the sound's coming from.
I've had that a couple of times. I'm like, I just tilt my head to where you're talking. That's how I know where you are. But I mean, I have prosthetic eyes, which means that my eyes are sort of half closed. So I can very rarely like make sort of eye contact with someone. I remember I once made eye contact with one of my friends and she was like, that's really scary. I was like, sorry.
Yeah, it's cute, isn't it? How amazed people can be sometimes with simple things. I remember when I was in school and we had a doctor coming in to do some eye tests and things like that, and there was a lad who was a friend of mine who had poor eyesight, and the doctor waved his hand in front of his face and said, "Can you see my hand?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "How do you know it's my hand and not my foot?" And he said, "It's on the end of your arm."
Yeah, it's just like logic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed your travel show, Wonders of the World I Can't See, that you did on Channel 4. And one of the takeaways I got from it is that it's sort of more about the experiences you had rather than the actual wonders themselves. So what was your favorite experience you had whilst doing that show?
The favorite experience. I mean, probably doing the me and because for those that don't know, it was 4 episodes, and each episode was a different place with a different person. And I did Niagara Falls with Lisa Tarbuck, which was just joyous, And I think one of the things we did there was on the river itself. We got to do the rapids and go in like some kind of high performance speedboat head first into these whirlpools, and it was astonishing. Really, it was. I think it felt like you were almost being drowned. It doesn't sound like a fun experience. It was quite. It was quite exhilarating. It was far more overwhelming in terms of the amount of water you were kind of subjected to than I was anticipating. I thought it'd be quite wimpy, to be honest. I thought, they've been bigging this up, haven't they? And I think that we both came out of that feeling like we'd been through something together. I think because they don't even fasten you in either. You're just holding on, holding on for dear life. So yeah, I think that was loads of fun.
Oh yeah,
it was a good series. It was good to do. But did you enjoy watching it, or how did you find the audio description?
Yeah, the audio description was good, and yeah, I really enjoyed watching it. I think when I saw the bit about the rapids, I thought I want to do that, but I also wanted to do. Did you do like a zip wire, like almost over Niagara Falls?
Yeah. So I think the zip wire probably sounds more impressive than it is, because you even though you're on the zip wire, it's one of those things that when it starts, you feel yourself kind of drop and accelerate, and you kind of and then within about 20 seconds you're kind of like, oh, so this is it. you just carry on, but you've got no, it could be anywhere. It could be off a hill or something. There's nothing that makes the falls relevant to you not being able to see, I think, being on it. And then obviously when you get to the end, you can't see it coming, and you don't half hit it with a whack. So you end up with an exhilarating 20 seconds, quite a mundane 2 minutes, and then a life-threatening end to it, as all your bones are reorganized, as you hit the end without bracing yourself. But the series itself was great, and the good thing is, the thing that we tried to do in it is we were honest in it about stuff in terms of not everything had to be worthwhile, so Niagara Falls themselves thoroughly worthwhile. And whereas I didn't find anything remotely worthwhile about going to the wonder in Jordan, which was the treasury. And we did stuff in Jordan that was worthwhile, but the focal point itself was just having a kind of wall described to you by Guz Khan, who is known for fabricating his facts at the best of times. So he's kind of making stuff up about what he thinks it is. I walked out of there none the wiser. Don't know what it was. Don't know what I was looking at. But it was about everything around the culture and all of the other activities, bringing these places to life as well. And some of it was more worthwhile than others. In Rome, the Colosseum was it wasn't as good as the Falls, but it was better than Jordan because you got to go in it. You could kind of feel that this is where stuff happens, gruesome stuff. We all love a little bit of gruesomeness, But then we also went on this tourist bus around Rome that was pitched to me as a smell bus. They drop screens down over the windows to show you old time Rome, and then they fill the bus with smells of old time Rome. And first I said, how's this going to come across on the telly? Who wants to watch a fella smelling something? And then when we done it, it was so boring. And the whole thing just smelled of lynx and kind of mothballs and things like that. And it was I came off of that going, well, that was an hour of my life I'll never get back.
Yeah, I know. I think there are some things the same for me where I've had sighted people with me who think that I'm really, really going to enjoy it, and then I don't, and they try their best to describe it to me, but there's certain things that I think if you don't have your sight, sometimes you just can't enjoy as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's about doing things, really. I mean, it's nice to have things described to you, but if you're gonna travel halfway around the world to have just something described to you, as I said in the show, you might as well have someone do it from a photo and save a lot of time and effort. And even when we were making the show, some of the ideas from the producers and things were like, yeah, well, you're gonna go and you're gonna get to smell what Jordan smells like and hear what, and just, well, even then it doesn't make me go, oh, I can't wait. I'm not going halfway around the world just to hear what a place sounds like. You kind of want to get immersed in things and do things, and that, I think that is how you make up for missing out on the other sensory stuff, really, on the visuals of it, is by kind of getting stuck in, really. And I think they were the bits that really brought the show to life, in terms of doing the gladiator training and things like that, is really kind of activities.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you've mentioned in the past that you're not the biggest fan of traveling. Do you think that filming that show has changed your mind about it at all?
I mean, if they give me a second series, I will definitely go again. So we will see. It's you know what, right, Evie? It's difficult to, people kind of, you're making a TV show. And so, it's almost like you're pretending, I suppose, that you're on holiday, but really you're not. You're at work and you're making a TV show. And so you've got this big kind of crew of people that have assembled and been paid for to make a TV show for you. And so it's really hard to kind of separate that from the fact that you're just away somewhere and go, well, has it changed your mind about going on holiday and traveling? Because it was thoroughly worthwhile, because we weren't doing that. But you kind of have to pretend that you weren't, to go, oh yeah, no, it's really open my eyes, figuratively speaking, towards traveling and stuff like that. What it did do, it did make me realize that if you do go somewhere, what I never would have done is kind of look a bit deeper in terms of things to do in a place. Like when I went to Greece with Harry Hill and we're doing the pottery class and the Greek theatre class. Me and Harry had a load of fun doing that, and it was daft and it was silly. But if you went with your kid, you'd probably, you'd have a good time as a family doing that as well. And you'd never think of doing something like that and hunting something like that out when you go to Greece. You kind of look at the touristy things. So it did make me realize to look a bit deeper, when you go into these places. But as I said, if they give me a series 2, I'll be there with bells on.
That's good then. So I know you've also mentioned in the past that you don't read Braille. So as I was born blind, I have to use Braille because otherwise I'd have no way of being able to read or write. But how are you able to read and write?
So literally just the computer and the phone. I just use the Mac now and the iPhone, so it's all voiceover on the Mac and the iPhone, which is the screen reader on those devices, for those that don't know. And so I just use the computer really as anybody else would, typing, and then it's all read back to me. So when I was growing up, the kids were learning Braille who couldn't see, because I went to St. Vincent's. I went to Worcester for a couple of years and St. Vincent's in Liverpool. The kids that were reading Braille were reading it because they needed it, like yourself. I didn't need it, and so I was very resistant to it, and I didn't really. There was no kind of motivation for me to. And then as I got older, technology was just really taking off in terms of the speech on the computers and things like that. And there was just always other ways of getting information. The internet and things like that. There was always other ways of getting information. Audible really hit the mainstream in terms of audiobooks. And so I've never really bothered with it. However, like now, working and things like that, I do wish that there was a stealth way of me consuming information without, whilst hosting something in terms of a radio show or having a bit of script in front of me, because pretty much everything I do from my head. If I'm, pretty much everything I do is just, I'll prepare and I'll write things, but then in the moment, it's all just, coming out of my head. And at those times, there are occasions when I do need to read something for the radio, on the radio, or something that is completely scripted that I've written. And I've kind of developed the ability to have that speech in my ear, reading while I'm listening to it and saying the same things at the same speed in my own kind of delivery. And it's not the best way of of being able to follow a script and things like that. But it's because I was so resistant to Braille in the past, it's the best I've got at the minute. And I can do grade 1. It takes me the best part of 2 weeks to read a sentence. My mum is a Braille teacher, believe it or not. So she's tried teaching me all of these contractions and things like that, but it just takes me so long to figure out what one cell is. I'm going, well, that's the top left dot, that's the top right dot, that's the one that's below that's an F, right? I think that my time has gone for being able to it's an opportunity that's been missed. So I wish I had of Evie.
I started learning Braille and I started learning to use my cane when I was very little, both around the same time. But for both, it was like some sort of like battle to try and get me to sit down and learn to read Braille or go and learn to use my cane, because and I'm very grateful for them now. But when I was little, I just felt like the odd one out.
Yeah, no, I get that, and you see that as you said, you've been blind since birth. I lost my sight gradually, and I think as well is that you now at the age of 13, you're 13, are you, or you've
just turned
14? Yeah. So you at the age of 14 are so much more comfortable with your condition than I was anywhere close to at that age, and part of that is probably because you've got a lot more common sense in your head than I probably did at that age. But as well, when you are born blind, you've got that consistency. You know what you're playing with from day one, I suppose. And when you lose your sight very gradually, you've never hit a plateau that you have to come to terms with. You're always in denial, because you always think you can still do things that you can't anymore, or it disappears so gradually you don't really notice it happening in the moment. And so I, having had sight when I was younger, I was always, trying to live life as someone who could see better than I probably could at all stages through that, which meant that by the time I got to my 20s and I needed to really learn how to use a cane, I was probably at the point where you were when you were talking about yourself there as a younger kid. How old was you when you were using your cane or getting to grips with it and being resistant? I
was probably about 5 or 6.
5 or 6. I was 25 or 26. So we've both been there. And but I was a grown man trying to hating having it, thinking that because you want to be cool, you want to be the same as everybody else. It's even though I'd had it all my life, being blind was still quite new because, as I said, I hit that point probably anything from 18 to 22, 23, really over that period. And so I was rubbish at it. I was rubbish at the cane. I'm convinced I've got one leg shorter than the other because I can't walk in a straight line. And even to this day, I'm 46 years old, Evie, and I cannot, I can't, I'm no good with the cane. I've got no real confidence with it. And the way I was talking before about, I didn't read Braille because computers talked and we got the internet and audio books it hit the mainstream and downloads and there was just access to information and I didn't really need it. With regard to the cane, Uber came along and all of a sudden I can get a taxi with it. Like I live in London, I can get a taxi in literally 1 or 2 minutes. It's like I don't know if you've ever read the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they kind of they press the button and they get instantly kind of picked up by the passing ship or whatever. That's what Uber feels like to me sometimes in London. You press the button and it just comes around the corner. And so when Uber became popular and this kind of access to transport became really accessible, I was like, well, I don't really need to bother with the cane, do I? So I'm still where you were when you were 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I still feel a little bit awkward walking around school because I know full well I'm the odd one out, and I do get a lot of kids who I walk past and they'll be like, "Oh, look, it's the blind girl." I'm like, "I can hear you."
Yeah. Do they talk louder and slower to you as well?
I have had that, yeah. I have had that a couple times, but yeah, I think a lot of people think I just like can't hear them, and be like, "Look, it's a blind girl," or like, "Watch out, the blind girl's coming." And I really feel like just saying to them, "I can hear you," but I don't.
Yeah. You need to swing that cane around a lot more, around about head height, and just give a couple of them a whack on the way through. Oh, I didn't hear you there.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, but if you could get your sight back tomorrow, would you?
The short answer is yeah, in a heartbeat. But it depends what that entails. It depends what how much sight that is. What I experienced losing my sight is that period where you haven't really got very good sight at all, but you're still trying to cope is really difficult. And it almost becomes easier when you lose that, because you're not relying on it, and you're not trying to cope with something that you've got that isn't good enough. So that last 5 years of kind of trying to manage with eyesight, far harder than being blind, and then just accepting that this is where you're at. Because for the first time when you're blind, you've kind of got consistency. You're like, okay, so this is it now for the rest, forever. So you can kind of, for the first time, come to terms with it. So if you were to give me back, 10% of my sight or whatever it is that, so it'll be like 3 or 4 years before you went blind. I go, no, I'll give it a miss, to be honest, because that's going to cause me more problems than I'm kind of, I'm comfortable at the minute. But if you were to give me my sight back properly, in a heartbeat. And the thing is as well is, I've been doing stand-up for 20 years, and doing stand-up, I talk about being blind and I'll talk about my experiences, but it's always a small part or a minority of what I talk about on stage. So, I kind of think I positioned myself where if you were to give me my sight back tomorrow morning, I could still go out in the evening and do a show and not have to talk about it because, it's what I'm used to doing anyway. I think some people sometimes when they do, comedy, they can, if you make it the thing that defines you as a comedian, I'm going to talk about this, then if your circumstances do change, you kind of go, oh, what we're going to talk about now? I've got nothing left. So yeah, in a heartbeat, but it'd have to be good enough. It'd have to be worth the worth going through to get it back. Yeah.
Yeah. See, from my perspective, being born blind, I don't think I would get my sight back because for me, I would literally have to relearn everything again. I'd have to relearn how to read and write in print. I'd literally have to relearn everything again. But then I guess there's also the fact that like I've never seen what my family look like. I've never seen what my friends look like. So then there is that part of me that goes, well, I really would like to see them.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, it's have you tried any of the new AI tools that are available for image description at all. So there's an app called Be My Eyes. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So there's an app called Be My Eyes, and they've got a feature on that now called Be My AI, and it's connected through to this Chat GPT, which I'm sure you've heard mentioned, which is like the chatbot, the birth of artificial intelligence that one day will kill us all, but at the minute it's fantastic. And what you can do with the app is you can take photographs of things, and the AI will describe the photograph to you. And it'll describe to you what's in the photo. And honestly, it is for the birth of a technology, for the early steps on this this path of AI. It is phenomenal. And I've been taking photographs of people. It describes to you what they look like, their expressions, their faces. And honestly, for somebody who hasn't seen in 25 years, it's almost it's the best I've had during that time of awareness of what people look like. You know yourself, sometimes you want to know what people look like. The amount of time you'll ask them, what's their hair like? How old do they look? What's that? And sometimes, I'll ask somebody just straight to their face, like, how old are you? Because I want to know what I'm picturing in my head roughly, or like, well, what color hair have you got? And, but you can get a lot of that information now from photographs. So what I'm saying is you should, even just now, you should give it a go and take some photographs of your family and let it describe it to you, and see if the artificial intelligence describes your family how they've been describing themselves to you all these years.
Thank you for telling me about that. I'll definitely give that a go.
Yeah. And the good thing is as well is you can take a photograph of yourself and go, you can even ask it, have I got anything on my face? Oh yeah. Well, what does that spot look like on my nose? It'll even describe it, and it'll even tell you. So yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's a game changer for blind people. This image description, visual kind of interpretation feature of artificial intelligence. It's honestly going to be a game changer. It's just a shame that ultimately it's going to destroy us all.
Yeah, that is a shame. So so obviously you are a stand-up comedian. What do you enjoy about performing live?
It's just so immediate in terms of the feedback that you get from an audience. It's lovely to be able to make a room full of people laugh. It's incredible that you can have an idea in your head in that moment and kind of just say it out loud and just improvise and make something up on the spot and instantly find out whether it's funny or not. It's so much more immediate than you write a book and then you have to send it off to somebody and then they have to read it and then you have to get it edited and public. There's other forms of creative entertainment that the feedback, the duration until that point of feedback is humongous, in terms of creating something and putting it out there. So I love that immediacy. All the way through doing stand-up for 20 odd years, I've loved the community, just really, working with other comedians because, there's just fantastic people out there. And it's a real, you feel like whenever you do a show with other comedians, you feel like you're part of a team. You'll turn up, you'll do the show together and you put, everybody's got babysitters and gone out for the night and you're part of a team that's kind of, put that show on and entertain them. As you kind of start doing your own thing a little bit more in stand-up, it gets a little bit more solitary, it gets a little bit more lonely in terms of I was on tour for 14 months and as soon as I finished the tour I got back out there and started doing the clubs again, and it was lovely to kind of just immerse myself back in that scene, meeting all working with all the other comedians again, because you're just traveling around doing your own show. So that's what I'm doing at the minute is a lot of clubs, a lot of stand-up comedy clubs, getting me next tour ready. But yeah, just it's all I know as well, Evie. My degree's in software engineering, and I got it, in 2000 when the internet was 5 years old. So there's no way I could go back and work in IT again. It's like trying to get a job in a newspaper only speaking Latin. Everything's moved on so much. So this is all I've got. So I'm glad it's going all right, because I don't know what else I'd do at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. So my final question for you What has been your proudest moment in your life so far?
I mean, there's been a few that I've kind of taken a step back and just gone, wow, like this is incredible to be part of this. I think just in terms of real raw stand up, I suppose I've done Live at the Apollo 3 times, which is like the flagship stand-up show on the telly, really, and I've hosted it. So I think that was quite a pinnacle at one point for me. Getting to do the Royal Variety Show was phenomenal, really, and getting to be part of that day and work with just Elvis Costello and Ed Sheeran was on, and Kayala Settle from The Greatest Showman, and all of these phenomenal kind of music acts, and then just to be able to do what I do amongst that, really, at the Royal Albert Hall, that'll stick with me forever, really. Yeah, and I think I did I created a comedy panel show as well, which was for Radio 4, called You Heard It Here First, which is on BBC Sounds. And it's I came up with the idea, created the whole thing, wrote the whole thing, put it all together. And we've got a series out there, and we're going to do some more of them. And we had Lee Mack on, and we had Andy Parsons on, and Alan Davis. And I think so, to create that whole series from scratch and have it out there, and it'd be really funny, and it'd be like a big success, and to be making more of them and have some of the people involved that we had involved, that's quite a big thing, I think, for me personally.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, those are all my questions. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been so lovely to meet you.
Well, thanks very much for chatting to us, and you are a natural, Evie. So keep it going, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something I want to do as a career anyway, so I'll definitely keep it going.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, good luck to you, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you to my audience for listening, and I'll see you all next time.